Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall continue to analyze and scrutinize the 10th edition Imperial Guard Index. This time, we shall be taking a close look at the Armoured Sentinel, the often overlooked variant of the Imperial Guard's iconic walker. Well, no more! The Armoured Sentinel strides into the new edition with a brand spanking and shiny new datasheet boasting an impressive array of improved abilities, weapons, and a very tasty stat line. I'm not going to lie to you boys, I am very excited for today's video. The Armoured Sentinel is one of my favourite guard units of all time, and so without further ado, let's go straight into today's video. As is tradition, we shall begin with a brief unit overview explaining what the hell the Armoured Sentinel actually is. If Scout Sentinels are considered the eyes and ears of the Guard army, the Armoured Sentinels are the scalpel which they direct to exercise the enemy units. Boasting thick armor plates, an array of improved targeting systems, and heavy weapons that can lay low even the greatest enemy unit, Armoured Sentinels bring a degree of fast-moving, tank-killing capability to an otherwise slow and lumbering Guard army. Well, that's the theory anyway. But how does all of this translate onto the tabletop? Does the fluff match the crunch? Well, let's find out by diving into the datasheet, and we'll begin with the unit stat line. Armoured Sentinels boast a movement value of 8 inches. Now, whilst this does make them a bit faster than your average infantryman, it is noticeably slower than the rest of the Guard motor pool. Even tracked vehicles like Chimeras and Leman Russes, which are famous for being slow, move 10 inches. Hell, the Baneblade, which is a lumbering behemoth, moves 9 inches. I have to say, whilst it's not a huge problem, I don't want to get hung up on the movement value. It is a surprisingly low amount of movement for what is meant to be relatively a nimble Guard vehicle. But fortunately, this can be considered the low point of the video. It's only up from here, gentlemen. You see, the Armoured Sentinel might be slow, but that might just be because of the giant brazen balls that are now attached to the vehicle. It has a whopping toughness value of 8. 8! It's as tough as a bloody Taurox! In additions, not that long ago, the Armoured Sentinel was a big deal because it was toughness 6. Toughness 8. That makes it as tough as old Leman Russes. Now sure, by 10th edition standards, it's still going to have a bit of a nasty time against medium anti-tanks such as Plasma, Melter, and also autocannons, but it does essentially make this thing almost immune to small arms fire. Bolters and below are going to be wounding it on 6s. Heavy bolters and other lighter special weapons are going to be wounding it on 5s. So it is a big improvement, that toughness 8, and it goes very nicely with a save value of 2+. What? They must have been wielding all sorts of corrugated iron to the side of this thing. It's got the same save value as a Baneblade, as a Leman Russ, as a Hellhound. I'm telling you now, Armoured Sentinels have never been this durable. And then you combine it with 7 wounds, which is perfect, by the way, because 7 wounds is that sweet spot where it takes just enough firepower that's really, really annoying to knock the unit out. It means it takes 4 damage 2 shots to kill you, 3 damage 3 shots to finish you off. 7 wounds is it's the Goldilocks zone for light armor. And then, of course, we have the standard issue Leadership 7+ and OC of 2. No one cares about that. The headline is here, guys. I know I've been rambling a little bit. Headline is here because I'm excited. The headline is Armoured Sentinels, point for point, are very, very durable, and they truly unlock something that Guard hasn't been able to do before: 2+ save spam. You could use your Armoured Sentinels alongside Russes and Hellhounds, and you could have an armored force which has got both mass, because Sentinels can be taken in squadrons of 3, but also incredible durability. You can finally form the iron line of the Imperium, and armored Sentinels are a really, really key factor in doing that. But now let's move on from the unit profile to the weapons, abilities, and unit composition of this unit. Now, of course, I mentioned before that you can take armored Sentinels in squadrons up to 3, but you can take them officially as a unit of 1. You can take them in a pair, or you can take a maximum of 3. This means that in your guard army, if you were to take 3 units of armored Sentinels in total, you could run 9 of these guys. 3 units of 3, or you could run 3 individual ones, or you could just run 1. What I like about the Armored Sentinel and its unit composition is that it's flexible. You can take as many of these things as you need. In 10th edition, with the army list building, with so many units being like, oh, you buy 10 blokes, it costs you this much. You buy 1 vehicle, it costs you this much. The fixed points values can make it quite restrictive when you're building a list. Armored Sentinels add that little bit of flexibility back in. It's like, oh, damn, I've got 70 points left over at the end of my list. I'm not sure what to put in. Oh, I had 3 individual armored Sentinels. Oh, I'll just spend the 70 points on taking an extra one. Now I've got a squadron of 2 and 2 individuals. It's just nice. I don't want to overrate the pudding, but as an old school player that likes to play around the list, I appreciate the armored Sentinels allow me to fill my points in useful ways and not just take a random 10-point bullshit upgrade at the end. Now, as standard, each one of these armored Sentinels is going to come with a Militarum multi-laser and a close combat weapon. I'm going to be honest with you now. If you stay with that loadout, you are brain dead. There is something wrong with you. The Militarum multi-laser is a terrible weapon, and I thank the Emperor that I can swap it out for almost anything. You can, in fact, swap that crappy laser out for either an autocannon, or a heavy flamer, or a las cannon, or a missile launcher, or a plasma cannon. In addition to whichever one of those fantastic weapon systems you pick, you can take a Sentinel chainsword. This actually makes the Sentinel half decent in combat. Is it going to suddenly beat Angron in a mano-a-mano fight? Probably not. Will you be able to cut down termagants with a little bit of extra ease? Certainly. And last but certainly not least, it would be remiss of me not to mention that each armor Sentinel does come equipped with a hunter-killer missile for free. That gives you just that extra little bit of anti-tank firepower. I've warmed up greatly to hunter-killer missiles in 10th edition. They have an improved stat line, and the fact that they're free means that cumulatively, over your entire army list, you end up with a surprising amount of them. Most guard armies that I build end up with between 6 and 10 hunter-killer missiles, and individually, they don't do anything. But when you let them all off in like a big volley in one turn, they do a surprisingly gratifying amount of damage. But it's not just the free fireworks, which is the main reason to take the Armored Sentinels. Like I said, you've got all those other weapons. Now, all of the Sentinel options are standard issue. So the autocannon is the same as you would find in an infantry squad. The heavy flamer, the same as you would find on a Chimera. For example, the las cannon, which you can also take, is a 48-inch range, 1 shot, ballistic skill 4+, strength 12, AP-3, D6+1 damage. There's no unique weapons on this data sheet apart from that Sentinel chainsword, which we'll get to in just a moment. And you know what? I actually really like this about the Sentinel. Sure, it's nice when a unit like the Rogal Dawn gets a bespoke weapon such as the Oppressor Cannon or the Pulverizer Cannon, but it's also nice to have things streamlined, homogenized, standardized. And it's nice that when I say to my opponent, oh, this Sentinel is going to fire its autocannon at you, my opponent doesn't need me to tell them what the stats are. They're like, oh, that's an autocannon. It's the same as I've seen everywhere else in this army. So I do like the simplification of the Sentinel weapon systems. But right now, I know there's a question that's going to be on a lot of people's minds. Mordian Glory, I have all these weapon options, but I don't know which one to take. What is the best weapon for your Armored Sentinels? Of course, it all comes down to your game plan and what you want the unit to do, but by and large, in my opinion, I think there are two best loadouts for the Armor Sentinel. Either you take the autocannon or the las cannon. Now, the autocannon is a very much improved weapon. In comparison to 9th edition, it's got better damage and it's got better strength. What I like about the autocannon is the fact that it is a jack of all trades, master of none. You can shoot this thing into light infantry and it's got the rate of fire where it'll pick a couple up. Due to into medium infantry, heavy infantry, it's got the strength, the AP and the damage to be a real threat. Hell, a Custodes can be one-shot splattered by an autocannon. It does a flat damage of 3. But it also has enough damage, enough strength and AP to just be just enough of a legitimate threat against vehicles too. Light armor, the strength is great, you're going to be tearing through that, but even heavy vehicles, even the toughest vehicle in the game, like a Stomper or a Baneblade, you're going to be wounding that thing on 5s. You take a full squadron of Sentinels, it's not actually that difficult to fish for 5s to try and stack a few wounds on it. And hey, every single one that you get through is going to tear a big chunk out of that enemy vehicle or monster. On the other hand, sometimes it is best to specialize. And in the current meta, and the way things are going in 10th edition, vehicles seem to be very prevalent at the moment. We're seeing the return of large-ass monsters, such as Knights and Wraith Knights. And sometimes fishing for 5s is okay, but sometimes you just need a big, punchy shot. And that's where the las cannon comes in. Sure, it only fires one shot, but it is true anti-tank. It is strength 12. It is AP minus 3. It is D6 plus 1 damage. When you need to bring it down, accept no substitutes over the las cannon. So far, we have mainly focused on the Armor Sentinel's ranged capabilities, but it would be silly of us to ignore its close combat potential. And like I said, you're definitely going to be taking that Sentinel Chainsword. It's a free upgrade, and it does actually give you quite a nice benefit in combat. With the Chainsaw, the Sentinel has 3 attacks, a weapon skill 4+, strength 6, AP minus 1. Essentially, it gives you an extra attack and an extra AP over just trying to stomp people with your feet. In isolation, that is not a very impressive weapon. It's a bit poo. But remember, you can take up to 3 Armor Sentinels in a squad. That starts giving you volume. You're getting 9 of those attacks now. And you can also tell them to fix bayonets. I don't know where they put the bayonet. I often find it's best not to ask, but you can order Sentinels to fix bayonets, which gives them +1 to hit. So now you're hitting on 3s. Now, this isn't going to make you suddenly able to charge down a bunch of Custodes and expect to win the fight. Not even slightly. It just means that the Armor Sentinel is a bit of a chaff clearer. Your opponent can't expect to tie it up with a bunch of termagants. They're probably going to chew through those relatively quickly. And another thing to bear in mind is you're not just going to be using the chainsaw. You're probably going to give the enemy a good volley from your autocannons or your las cannons, and then you're going to go in there and finish off what is left over. I very much consider the Sentinel Chainsaw supplementary damage output. It's incidental, but don't forget about it. In a pinch, it might just save your ass. But it's not just the weapons that the Armor Sentinel is bringing to the table. It also, like pretty much every unit in 10th edition, has a unique ability. And this is Mobile Hunter Killers. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets a monster or vehicle unit, you can re-roll the wound roll. Gentlemen, this is spicy made manifest. I really like this. I think it gives you essentially pseudo twin linked against a certain kind of unit. And considering the meta that we're in, considering that 10th edition is being dominated by vehicles and monsters at the moment. I mean, hell, you've got Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights towering all over the place. You've got Eldar with their Wraith Knights. You've also got things like Fire Prisms, and you've got loads of different armored types that are all over the place. Monsters and vehicles are very, very prevalent. People are increasingly waking up to the fact that 10th is a big unit addition. And so Armored Sentinels are only going to get more and more relevant as more and more people start jumping on the mech train. I mean, if we really get down to brass tacks, it's a straight up damage increase. Sometimes abilities can feel a bit situational, they can feel a bit finicky, feels like they've got to have multiple steps to set them up. No, this one is straightforward. Armored Sentinel see big thing, Armored Sentinel kill big thing. I also think this makes a very strong argument for giving your Armored Sentinels autocannons. Because before we mentioned you'd have to fish for 5s against big monsters, but that becomes a lot more reliable when you are able to get full rerolls to wound. I also think it is a good case for the las cannon as well, because sometimes when you're shooting something big, especially if it's really big, you might be wounding on a 4+. That's kind of swingy. Having that reroll in your back pocket is just brilliant. So however you slice it, it makes the Armor Sentinel good at killing big things, and it makes them just better at doing their job, and it synergizes with the better loadouts as well. But here's the thing. There is a fly in the ointment. It's a pretty straightforward one. It's the point cost. Armor Sentinels are great. They bring a lot to the table. But they're 70 points each. That is eye-watering. For 25 points more, you can get a Hydra. 15 points more, you can get a Chimera. Those vehicles have got better toughness, more wounds, more movement. It's a lot of points to ask for one light walker. And sure, it's a heavy walker by Sentinel standards, but it's a light walker by the Guard Motor Pool standards. I feel like Armored Sentinels are between 10 and 20 points overcosted. Frankly, I think Armored Sentinels and Scout Sentinels should cost the same. I wouldn't mind if I saw both going to about 60 points, meet in the middle. I feel like Armored Sentinels don't bring anything better to the table than Scout Sentinels. They just bring something different. Both units are very equal. Both units do a very different job on the tabletop. And so therefore, I think Armored Sentinels should cost the same as Scout Sentinels. And I think their cost in general should come down noticeably. Of course, all of that is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you a fan of the Armored Sentinels? Have you had good results from them on the tabletop, or do you find them just a little bit too pricey to be worth including? Of course, if you've enjoyed today's video, make sure you smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. And I just want to take a moment to say a massive thank you to all of the channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. You truly are the lifeblood of the channel, and I couldn't do this full time without you. And I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to all of my top tier supporters. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So thank you so much to Alan Blunt III, Amy DeSweet, Bon Vert, Ken Starr, Mark Panconi, Ross Miller, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Once again, guys, thank you. Genuinely couldn't do this without you. Your incredible and generous support just makes a huge, huge difference. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.